Welcome to the Path Podcast. It's November 1st. My name is Tanya. I'm here with Ak as usual, and I'm beyond stoked to welcome Wade Simmons to the podcast. Can't believe you're here, Wade. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, a little quick trip to California, and stoked to come down to the Path here and talk to you guys.
Freaking Godfather.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I heard about you guys, of course, being a Rocky dealer and my good buddies that live in Laguna. They talk about, you guys are like the shop in the area. It's pretty cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've had Hans Ray on the show before. That was a number of years ago. That was a hoot to have him.
I was thinking back. I was reminiscing before the show, thinking of the early days of the shop when we opened in 98. And I think that was right around the time Crank 2 came out. Probably. I think Crank 1 was like mid-90s, like 96, 97.
People always ask me on the timeline, and it always blurs out because it's too many movies, too many years. But
because it's a marker for me of having opened the shop, I'm pretty sure it's right. Like that between Crank 1 and Crank 2 is when we opened.
Crank 2 was Turkey. Right? I think I was there with Schley and Tippy, and we went to Turkey, which was an awesome trip. And that was Crank 2, so 98?
Yeah. And then Crank 4, I think, was the one we played just ridiculously, endlessly. But also the, Rome, like so good.
Yeah, the Rome movies, NWD came out.
I miss
No, sorry. We're talking Cranked. And
we forgot.
And
New
I was
World
talking about
Disorder
New
too,
World Disorder.
right? But those were also right there in the same stack of
Yeah.
DVDs too,
Yeah,
and nonstop. Like you'd put one end, you put the other one on, and it's
Right.
nonstop all day.
Yeah.
And those scenes, like the soundtracks and everything, they get burned into your brain.
They
and
do. Yeah,
It's
I still listen to that music. I haven't graduated. Fu Manchu,
yeah,
California rock.
there you go. I love it. Oh gosh, can't believe it. That's so cool.
I like the Fu Manchu still.
Yeah.
Can't beat the heavier riffs,
Yeah,
King of the road.
I miss premieres of
Yeah,
movies.
I know. It's not the same anymore. It's just you don't have that big party feel with the kids just don't party like that anymore. I mean, maybe they do, but
Maybe we're just not invited. Just kidding.
Maybe
we're not invited. Yeah, they do.
Right.
Different music.
not around the release of a video or of a movie.
No,
right?
it's
Like I
true.
remember hosting Rome over at a local brewery,
Yeah.
Tussin Brewing Company, and man, that was fantastic.
I used to bring my parents down, because when I was an old free rider, well, I'm old now. But when I was a young free rider is what I meant long time ago. We'd have premieres at Richards on Richards and stuff in downtown Vancouver, Random Bar. And we'd invite the parents down. I remember my parents like hanging out in the back, like, we're all up front watching the movie, getting drunk. And my mom's like, is this really a career?
Yeah. You guys were like rock stars to us. We would try to emulate the Canadian flair and style and stuff. Like, pretty amazing.
It's not that we were trying to, we were just doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the early style.
Super authentic.
Authentic, yeah. I think it was just new. We didn't know what we were doing. We had no one to follow. Yeah. It was, those are the glory days, man. Like I always think about this, like today, free riders, as a kid coming into your shop and they buy a bike, they're like, hey, I want to be like that free rider. I see him in the movies, right? When we were there, we were kind of fumbling towards the unknown,
Right.
and that's why it happens so much slower, because we were just like, what are we doing? Like, can we, this is kind of honestly how it works. Like, can we ride our bike down that? Like, that's the start of free ride. It was like, look at that cliff. Like, can we jump off that? Like, holy shit, we can jump off that. You know what I mean? And
The progression was pretty insane. I was looking at some of those old videos, and some of those would hold up as edits today for sure on reels and stuff. People would be like, whoa.
Well, I always, like, when I filmed, I wanted to be respected because I'm an old BMXer. I race BMX. And I know that BMX still is the pinnacle of, like, technicality.
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
urban BMX stuff is ridiculous, right? So if I took my mountain bike into the urban landscape, I would make sure that I only did stuff that the BMXers would respect,
That's cool.
right?
Yeah.
Because I respected the BMXers. I'm not going to go putz around in the urban scene like, hey, here I am on my mountain bike, like, look at me jump some stairs, right? And I had some BMX buddies who were kind of in the mix at the time, and I'd hang with them on my mountain bike. I'm like, dude, what do you think about this line? They're like, dude, that's sick, right? So that's why our old lines they stand the test of time, because they were almost like they were like mentored by BMXers.
That
Dude,
rings true. If you can
Yeah.
impress the BMXers, it's probably going to be pretty sick.
That's absolutely, or anything that I'm going to do. If someone else is in that environment, I think I would like make sure that you don't want to step on toes, right?
Right.
Like you want to be
Respectful of their
Yeah.
right.
You want to keep it cool, man. It's all about.
Right.
It's like like we never, like again back to like being a new free rider. We didn't know this was a job. It's not like we're aspiring to be a free rider because it didn't exist. We were just kind of honestly doing it because we had this passion to send it. We were
Yeah.
like
Right.
fuck, like let's do it.
But the rest of us noticed. Everyone noticed.
Well, we
and
were
thought it
onto
was
something,
cool.
obviously.
Yeah.
And it could have been. Luckily, it was us. It could have been anybody. I think globally there was a fever happening.
Yep.
And I think Freeride was ready. Like
It was
it
right.
was going to happen anyways.
Right.
We didn't start. I mean, yeah, we started Freeride, and we might have been on the wave of the Freeride. We rode the wave, but Freeriding was happening. Because
You were really pushing the progression
We-
early
yeah.
when a lot of when that was really mattered.
I think a lot of mountain bikers were already there. Like Bender was in behind us. That guy Crispy, remember Chris
Yep.
from Utah? He was sending it. I could like name a bunch of
Right,
people that
right,
were
right.
sending it.
I've ridden with
but-
him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how did that trio come together? How did that develop from a younger age into like what we see on Cranked?
You're talking Richie, Tippy, and myself?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Well, Rocky. So I was racing DH.
Got it.
Richie was living in Kamloops, or he was living in Whistler,
Got it.
and I want to get this right, And then and there was and Christian Bégin, this French Canadian filmmaker.
Right.
He got a job by I think Norco or something like that, and he knew Richie was a skier, and he
Right.
gave Richie a bike to shoot on, and then Tippy heard of this, so Tippy showed up too. He's like, hey, I do this kind of riding, And Richie and Tippy knew each other from school. They're buddies, right?
All right.
And this is like going back to like the early start of this.
Right.
But it was Christian who got paid for a gig to film some free riding,
Right.
and then how did I end up on the scene there? It's like I gotta dust off the memories here.
Is this when you were working in a bike shop?
But I was working at the
you were working
Cove
at
Bike
Cove,
Shop,
yeah.
the Deep Cove Bike Shop, and I wasn't sponsored yet. But I borrowed a bike to go do a shoot for the Cranked for actually. Okay, this Ryan. It was Ryan.
Okay.
Wind
no,
it
totally.
way
This
back.
is great. Let's.
Free Ride, the Freak Radical was a magazine that was based out in Nelson, and Bjorn Enga, one of the originators of Cranked, he was the editor of the magazine.
like a local magazine?
It was
or-
like grassroots,
Yeah.
Free Ride Nelson, kind of like
Cool.
like kind of
Like a
pod,
zine.
pod empire, skiing, backcountry magazine,
right, right.
and this free riding thing was happening, and he wanted to kind of do a
Capture
photo
it,
shoot
yeah.
for the magazine. This is totally before movies, right? And I went and did a photo shoot for the magazine. I was working at the Cove, and I went at lunch hour to go do a photo shoot of this drop. There was a drop in North Van called the Crater, right at the base of Frome. It's kind of this like eroded little dirt hill, and there was about like a 6-7 foot drop. And it's like, go hit the crater for the magazine, and we got the photo, and that was probably the start of like, whoa, we got photos, we got Richie and Tippy up in Kamloops, and all came
Right.
together. And then Rocky started to get. I was a downhill racer for Rocky. I was racing, downhill for.
Right.
And they said, what's this free ride thing? And Rocky, I'm fast forwarding maybe a year here or
Sure,
something like
sure.
that, all in the early 90s. But Rocky's like, let's create a free ride team.
Oh wow.
That's really early to be able to think of that.
Yeah.
See that
So
vision.
And it
Forward,
was this
right?
guy, I forget, Tess Sewell. I don't know if you know Tess Sewell, but he came from the border cross side of things. He was very instrumental in when the first border crosses were
Right.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was a contractor at the time. I think he got hired by Rocky as a marketing contractor.
Right.
And he applied the border cross snowboard template to mountain biking. He's like, I think we're on something here. Following snowboarding,
Yeah,
the free
right.
riding, and he put us together as a team, and we were the free ride, like the Rocky Mountain free ride team. At the time, Cannondale had a bike called the Free Ride, and they had a cease and desist on Rocky about the free because they
About the
had
name.
patented the name Free Ride.
Right.
That's
Wow.
kind of the truth. So for us, that was the start of the Fro Riders.
The Fro Rider.
And Fro, because Rocky was big in Germany, Fro means fun in German.
Oh, nice.
So we were the fun riders, the Fro Riders.
But some of you had some big hair too.
I thought someone had big hair.
Well, those were wigs, you know.
Right, exactly.
And then at the same time, North Shore riding started to take off,
Right.
which is very technical. It's just free riding in nature anyways, because we're riding on fallen logs and cliffs and chutes and, rock faces. And Todd Fiander, the digger, as from North Shore Extreme movies.
Oh.
I'm sure you guys watch many North Shore
Yeah.
Extreme. He was doing little high 8,
gosh.
camera videos.
Yeah.
And he was making them for himself. And people were like, hey, you should make a video. And that was the start of the North Shore Extreme movies.
Oh,
Because he
wow.
started showing them in you got a TV in the bike shop with a VHS. So they
Yeah,
put on movies like,
transfer
hey,
on.
check out this.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
watching movies, having beers.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I should start making movies, And that was the start of the North Shore Extreme movies. And it's just kind of, they collided at the same time, So the Crank movies, North Shore Extreme, The Shore, everyone had video cameras and
But
that's-
hooking up with like a filmmaker, Christian, how do you pronounce his last name?
well, it's Begin. I always
gonna-
fuck it up.
I was gonna say
Begin. I think it's
Yeah,
Begin.
yeah.
Christian Begin.
Somebody like that. But so you have the writing, the filmmaking, all coming together at this, like you're saying, like the time was right.
Yeah, yeah.
And the distribution of film at the time and movies. I mean, that's got to contribute to like the explosion.
And then, and then you need distribution for the movies.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
when
yeah.
Fox distribution was, they're big in the motocross.
Video Action Sports.
Video Action Sports.
I miss getting to buy DVDs from them.
That's right.
It would be really cool if that kind of format could make 'cause
VAS,
everything
yeah,
comes
yeah.
back around eventually, right? It'd be cool if feature length mountain bike videos were a thing again.
Yeah, yeah. That's great, man.
Man,
And then free riding took off.
right.
Rocky backed it. We were going, so we basically went to Germany and England to bike festivals, and we'd free ride. Who are these guys, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
All these Germans are racers, the Brits are racers, right? And we're coming in there going, hey, we're the free riders. They're like, what the fuck do you do?
Right.
It's like, well, you got a picnic table around here? I'll bunny hop onto a picnic table and wheelie drop off of it. I mean, that's kind of it, right? Just messing around. And so we started to educate the world on free riding.
Right.
We'd go to the Garda Festival. Have you guys ever been to Lago di Garda in Italy?
I wish.
No, yeah. I wish.
It's awesome. It's kind of like Europe's Sea Otter,
Yeah.
Nice,
and it
yeah.
happens end of April, May.
Right.
And we used to go there because Rockies was big in Germany, and we just go hang out with the Germans. So that's why it took off in Europe quicker, because we do these photo shoots with the German
Would you do the
photographers.
setup with the wooden features and stuff?
We
for
never
that?
had much setup.
No
it was
setup?
more we just free riding, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
You got a stair set and a wall, you can just air to wall ride or whatever. That's what we did. We just kind of went in and jumped off shit.
That's good.
Took photos, and people are like, "You guys are crazy." We're like, "I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, we're kind of crazy, but keep flying to me Europe, and I'll show you how crazy I am."
Exactly. I'll keep being crazy. Right.
Speaking of crazy,
Exactly.
the first Red Bull, won the first Red Bull. Like, what the heck?
I know. So, and then that's a whole nother thing. The Red Bull, 2001. So free riding's going on,
Yeah.
gaining momentum.
Late 90s.
Red
and
Bull, the progressive company that they are, hey, we better harness this energy and do a contest. So Todd Barber, I don't know if you know Todd Barber. He had an event company at the time. I don't know what events he was doing, maybe some ski stuff, but he kind of came in. He's like, hey, let's get a bunch of free riders together and go jump off cliffs in the desert,
wow.
i.e., Virgin, Utah.
Yeah.
And Bender was already on the scene, and I think Bender lived in Virgin. He's like, oh yeah, this is the ultimate place to do free ride. So we all culminated there in 2001 and had a little grassroots free ride contest, which I happened to win. I think because I fell down the least
Oh, gosh.
going down the mountain, I actually did win it, and I crashed in my run.
Yeah, is that amazing?
That's weird.
You could win
Yeah,
with
I
the
know.
crash
I
in your
know.
run.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, everyone was crashing, right?
Right,
So-
right. So, but I was actually just watching that video of your run, and man, the sketchiness of it all,
Yeah.
the lack of curation. So, I mean, the lack of building.
Well, what we did,
How
we
did that come
basically
about?
look at the hill,
Right.
and you just pull some bushes out and move a couple rocks.
Oh man,
Right?
Super
and
raw.
maybe smooth out a line. Like now, it's totally different, right? They have build crew. They
Right.
go in for a week, but back then it was raw dog. It was just like,
man.
because we didn't know.
Yeah.
We were just making our way down the mountain. Like we were riding our mountain bikes down the mountain.
And trail building has progressed since then too,
Trail-
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I was looking at some of the landings and how soft it
Oh, yeah.
was. Oh my goodness!
But
that
you know
is-
what's funny is that you learn the technique because we grew up in Kamloops, and we knew like so as a rider you gotta adjust midair,
Sure.
right? Every rider has to adjust, right? And you know that if you see it's gonna be soft, you gotta like wait a bit back because if you pile it on the nose, you're gonna pop over. You know, like we were skilled riders, even though it
Right.
didn't look like
No,
it. I mean,
come on.
just to
Right.
just to air those jumps and
Right.
and make it on your wheels down. That's
Right.
that's a skill in
Right.
itself.
No, we thought it was
to the
cool.
edge.
Yeah.
Send
Billy
her.
Goat.
Send it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
what bike were you riding?
I was on a some kind of Rocky RM, maybe an RM7. At that
Oh
point.
yeah, I remember those. Those
I
are
think
cool.
we were beyond the RM6. That was the first one. I think it was RM7 or RMX. So
Yeah.
I went RM7, RMX. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe an RMX.
What forks were you running on that?
I think the Super T's.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had a pair of Monsters for a while, but I think I like the Super T's better. It just balanced the bike out. The Monsters are pretty heavy, so it made the front end really heavy.
Right.
Just the oil in that fork was heavy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a couple of jugs of oil.
Yeah.
They last forever though. You never have to change it.
Yeah, it was so
gosh.
good.
Do you remember the geometry on it? Like,
Steep and
just-
you know, they were like
just
they were,
looking at it, it
they were
looks-
circus bikes.
oh,
Probably
my
69
Short
degree
and
head angle.
tall, right? Because you need
Super
you
tall
need the
bottom bracket.
suspension, 8 inches of suspension, but the wheelbase wasn't long, 26-inch wheels too.
God. Right.
Yeah, it was a
14 and a half
very
inch bottom bracket.
lot of prototyping going on. You know,
Oh my gosh.
experimental times.
It's surprising that. Well, maybe you were. How often were you breaking things? Like,
All the time. Well, fuck. We would go. So we go to Europe for these, you know, for a trip. We bring rear ends because we knew what would break.
oh my god.
So we'd bring a couple of spare rear ends, you know, and you know, and I was a bike mechanic. That's basically what I did out of high school. I was working as a bike mechanic in Kamloops, you know, building bikes.
Yeah,
It's like
it's a legendary shop you
17.
worked at. We knew about it.
Spoke in Motion.
Or I'm talking about Cove.
Oh, the
but-
Cove too. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Cove was the first shop I worked for in
Right.
Vancouver. I grew up in Kamloops, graduated high school in '91. My dad worked for Sears at the time. You remember that the
Yeah,
retailer
totally.
Sears.
Yeah.
He got transferred in 1990 because you know we're moving up the corporate ladder, like to be a store manager down in Vancouver. And this was my grade 11 year. I'm like, I'm not gonna leave in grade 11. You know, you got all your buddies there,
Right,
Kamloops, right? So I had an older brother in Kamloops, a responsible older brother. He got married right out of high school, 5 years older, right? So he's like, hey, I can live with him for my grade 12 year.
Right.
So I lived with my older brother in Kamloops for grade 12 and just mountain biked and
And rut road. And,
made it through high school, luckily. And then he looked at me after grade 12. He's like, "What, you gonna live with me your whole life? Like, what do you like? Move on." So he kicked me out. I went down to Vancouver and I got a job at the Deep Cove Bike Shop, and the rest is history. Yeah.
oof.
I mean,
you-
you know, but coming into Vancouver, because mountain biking was happening, the Cove was a shop. But I was a bike mechanic. We used to do, so the Cove sits right at the base of Mount Seymour. I don't know if you guys know Vancouver very well, but there's like 3 mountains,
Got it.
Cypress, Frome, and Seymour,
Got it.
moving from west to east. And Deep Cove is very dark and dirty. It's the most east, you know?
Right. Right.
It's like rain. It's a rainforest, basically. Like the dankest, mossiest, loamiest rainforest. But you have like 1,000 meters vertical, which is like 3,300
yeah,
feet
yeah.
right there. So the shop
In
opened
your
at 10.
backyard.
We would meet at 8 and we'd do a shuttle. We'd drop this like, it was all illegal trails because there's no trails. So we'd
Right.
ride these hiking trails, which are gnarly. So we got riding these technical hiking trails right down into the
Oh
cove.
my gosh.
And then like
awesome.
start work. It was, and we would just be buzzing all day, just like, oh my god, we just cheated death 10 times, you know. Yeah, we had that descent. 45 minutes
That's awesome.
Oh wow.
of pure descending.
Have those trails been grandfathered into the network, or are they still illegal? Or
Those ones we rode are still illegal hiking, but there's a whole bunch of loamers that are dispersed all through there.
and that trail system's changed a lot, I think.
Well, you know, the Hangman, it's a very famous trail. It was in one of the Crank movies. You know, it's like that's still there. That was
Yeah.
the first mountain bike dedicated trail out there. But yeah, I mean, the shore. I mean, I travel the world riding, but the shore is. You know, I don't want to be cocky and, you know, like pompous, but I think it's the best ride in the world.
I think you're right.
Just pound for pound.
Right.
We have 3 mountains that all top out about 1,000 meters. So not huge vertical, but like every
yeah.
mountain has like 10 loamers on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't ride enough there. It's like you try to ride it all in one year, you're like, You can't. It's amazing.
So good.
So it's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah. And now, 2023 coming into 24, mountain biking is growing, right? So back
Yeah.
then there was like a handful of mountain bikers that we'd ride this hiking trail, that hiking trail in these mountains, right? But now there's like so many trails built by these little pockets of mountain bikers who live there, and they have their own trails. And as mountain bikers evolve, they start mountain biking, and they're like, you always get like, I want to build my own trail. I want to contribute somehow. So they
Right.
go build their own trail. It's like,
Right.
oh, another new trail. Perfect. You know, right?
And then they,
Thanks very much.
yeah, and they're invested in maintaining it too. So
Well, yeah,
they go out,
absolutely.
they continue to build on that.
They are now because you have to be. It's kind of come full circle where it's like, back then it's just rogue cowboy trails, just skidders down the mountain.
Right.
Yeah. It's evolved so much. I mean, back then it was kind of, this term still applies now. Rake and ride. You heard that term? Rake and ride? Like back then it was just move a couple logs, skid it.
Man.
The equipment and the trails have gotten a lot tamer or a lot more groomed, a lot more refined.
So when you were first starting, that was probably still V. Were you riding V brakes?
V-brakes. Oh, yeah.
Oh man,
And I used to, I've been there through the whole thing, man. Like
Kent used to.
toe clips.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, we started with toe clips, like CD shoes, toe clips.
yeah.
And then when 737s first came out, I think that was the first Shimano pedal. Remember those black?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we all went through the growing pains of falling over, like Shimano
gosh.
pedals.
And so you went to flats at some point, I imagine.
I knew how to ride flats from BMX days,
Right.
so I never had a problem going between.
You just kind of
flats
went back and
clips.
forth.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
riding flats now?
I do a
mostly?
little bit, yeah.
Or do you still clip into
My own
it?
real rule of thumb is anything 6 inches travel and above, I go flats, and then anything below, I unless I'm filming. If I'm doing some rad stuff, I always ride flats,
Yeah.
just to get the the technique and stuff.
Yeah.
But clips, clips for daily riding, just for leaving the house, pedaling up,
Yep.
But I like to mix it up, yeah. Flats
Yeah.
are no problem. I got a shinner the other day at the bike park.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
a 4,
Oh,
1, 2,
my
3,
God,
4.
Yeah. In
We
the
try-
shape of the edge of the pit.
We tried to do a little pedal flip, but we were challenging each other.
Which park?
At the North Shore, the indoor North Shore bike park. We
Oh,
had
cool.
a Godfather's garage night, and we were challenging each other. Let's do a pedal flip out of that jump.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What bikes are you riding these days?
I was on. Well, Rocky's got a new pump track bike, the Flow
Oh, cool.
dirt jump
Oh.
pump track bike. Yeah.
What do you
Brand new for 24. It's coming out.
What do you ride the most?
Oh, I got so many bikes.
What's your
We
sweetheart?
want to get
right
into
now?
this? We got time for this?
Yeah,
I think
we
so.
totally.
You
This
know,
is
because I work for Rocky now. I ride for Rocky, so I always cycle through bikes at any given time. But
Right.
I have an altitude, which is awesome. Like a 160, 170, 160 bike.
Yep. And you ride
And-
that dual 29.
Dual 29, yeah. I'm mostly dual 29.
Yep.
I only go mullet if I'm getting rad.
Yep.
So
right.
I'm 29 all the
I
time.
figured you'd be always getting rad.
Yeah. Well, I'm 50 now, right? So it's kind of. But if I know that I'm going to be sending it, because I'm not tall. I'm a hair under 5'10",
Okay.
and I find when you ride the shore and you drop it into the steeps, I do buzz my butt on the 29.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Which
too.
is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're probably like similar
Yeah,
height.
yeah,
When you're like. You're flat, you drop in, you get the butt back.
Yeah, 100%.
It hangs you up a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
But for getting like rad, if I'm filming and I know I'm going to be like sending it, I go 27 on the back.
Yep. And that would be an altitude again, or
Altitude, yeah. Or Slayer.
or Slayer.
Yeah. I
And
just
you have-
built up a brand new 2024 Slayer. Awesome.
And you have a downhill bike too.
Well, we don't technically do a downhill bike. Like we have a Slayer Park Rocky.
Okay. You did not that. We have some rocky downhill bikes around the shop.
So we did
Just not doing it right now.
the Flatline was first and then the Maiden.
Yeah, there's some
People still
big-
ride the Maiden.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
think
good
we have
bike.
one- I think there's one running around.
Yeah, there
It
is.
was the Maiden was ahead of its time.
Yep.
I think, and we should have. I think we should have lengthened it and kept with that. But we went EWS way. EWS blew
Yeah.
up, and we put our money into supporting the
And that's-
EWS team.
Yeah.
But I think Rocky will come back around to DH just because.
Yeah, they have to.
They have to. Yeah. Technically, Rocky it's not a big company. It's not like the Treks and the Specialized out there. So, but like we're kind of a solid medium size, and we got to pick our battles a little bit, right?
Big in Canada though, right?
Big and oh yeah. Rocky's been, they've been true.
Really historic
They're
and
historic, man.
yeah.
We might have the best story in mountain biking. That's what I say.
You want to tell it?
Well, no, it's like born on the shore, supported free ride from the start. Olympians like Alison Sador, you know,
Right.
Andreas Hessler, Bruce Spicer, like names you guys might know of.
Yeah.
These are like
Yeah.
Canada's top XC racers at the time,
Yeah.
you know, and then all like myself and like Vanderham, and Schley and Tippy,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know, Gulovich, you know, like Carson Storch. Like we've,
Yeah.
I'm a sales guy now, right? So I'm all like, you know, I'm all silver tongue, like come on, like, yeah. do. But I'm like, you know, I go to someone at a dealer. I'm like, name me one pro rider of that company, X company, right?
Right.
And they can't.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
I'm like, name me some Rocky pros. Well, they fucking because it's like, you know, like Rocky's done a good job of promoting that. You know,
Yeah,
they get behind
legendary.
it.
And you've got the best website, the URL.
Oh yeah,
Bikes.com.
Bikes.com. Yeah.
Bikes.com, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean, if the bottom ever falls out, they can always sell that and cash out, right?
I like to ask pretty much everyone, you run inserts in your tires?
What's that?
You run any inserts?
No, I've never run
That's
inserts.
not your thing. And then another thing I'm obsessed with right now is crank length. Are you running standard crank lengths? Or
Well, I'm a 1.7. I'm an old BMXer, so I like torquing. I'm a 1-gear torquer.
nice.
I like grinding because you know, and the 175s are good for that because you get
Yeah.
you know. But now bikes are lower and slacker. I'm hitting my cranks all the time, so I've moved to 170. I don't know if I'm going to go any lower.
Yeah.
With e-bikes, I hear that the 160 is the way to go. 165, 160.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm old school, man. I like long torquey cranks.
Yeah. I like how the shorter cranks handle when you've got less of a hip angle spread and your feet are closer together at 6 and
Yeah,
9.
I'm getting it. I'm evolving.
So speaking
Hey,
of
can
evol-
I
Yeah.
evolve on that?
Yeah, totally.
You know what's funny is that, you know, downhill racers, they run their levers flat.
pretty up,
you know?
yeah.
Right.
I did this race phase video with Keegan Wright. I don't know if you know that name. He's a New Zealander EWS racer, right? And we were doing a race phase video, and we were up Cyprus. We did a shuttle. I take his bike off the rack, and his levers are like that, like you know, actually above flat.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, Keegan, dude, I'm like, you need an Allen key. You gotta adjust your levers. He's like, oh no, mate, that's how I run them. I'm like, that's how you run your levers? He's like, oh yeah. And he started going into like the pros of like, you know, opening up your wrists and stretching them out.
Right.
So as an old guy, I've been actually moving my levers up now, and I gotta say, I kind of like it.
Okay, I'm going to have to try it. I kind of have mine at about
A little bit
45
steep.
degrees.
Well,
I'm
he's telling me that when they're steep, you get skier's thumb. You blow your thumb out, right? Because
Okay.
all the weight is on your thumb. Whereas when lever's up, you're pushing into your.
That makes a lot of sense.
Of course, it's really weird at first because you're like, yeah, it feels odd. But then as you get into it,
Are you above flat now?
no, I'm not.
You're not.
I'm about 2 degrees.
Getting
I'd say.
close to flat.
Right.
I'm going to have to try that.
I was, you know what? Yeah, it's good. Because
That's cool.
he says that when you're in the back seat and you're like that, you're like manually. Because imagine you're like that.
Yeah. Makes sense,
right.
especially on a
Makes sense.
steeper descent, too.
I know. Those young guys, eh? Who knew? Who knew?
So you ride e-bikes at all?
Yeah, love e-bikes.
Yeah, me too.
I did the first when Rocky came out with a power play in 2017, I think.
Right.
I did the first video. We were in the south of France with the first iteration of the Rocky power play, and I was early adopter. I mean, I'm not. You know, some people are like e-bikes. Dude, I'm not ready. It's like, what do you mean you're not ready? Like,
Right.
like
Not
you know,
ready
like,
for fun?
Do you think people went back to the candle when the light came out? It's like, yeah, I like this electricity, but I'm gonna stick with the candle. It's like,
It's a good analogy.
Okay, so how have you seen, since you're early adopter, how have you seen bikes changing, the e-bikes changing for the better over time?
well, again, you want to get into this?
Totally, totally.
People like, so I'm an old downhill racer.
Got it.
I like heavy. I'm used to throwing around heavy bikes.
Right,
So when these bikes came in, like, yeah, they're heavy, but I didn't mind it,
right.
you know? And with a little bit of like adjustment, you speed up the rebound. Of course, you got to put more air. You got to bump them up because the bike's heavier.
Right.
So you got to bump up your support, but then you speed up the rebound to get the pop, right? Because if you keep your same rebound, that weight is harder to move off the ground, right? So I always found that you open up your rebound to get a bit more pop, and I can bunny hop my e-bike almost as high as my normal bike.
Oof.
Yeah.
Gnarly.
I love it, dude. And they're so planted and stable.
All right.
Yeah.
At speed, dude.
Yeah.
They, you know, people are like, it's too heavy. I'm like, yeah, it's too heavy. Like, you know, glass half full. Like they're awesome. I love them.
Well, and you're from an era when a lot of bikes were 50 pounds.
That's right. It's like it's light. The bike's actually light.
Gosh, the full power, full weight e-bike is lighter than.
Remember Gazzolotti's? You get a pair of Gazzolotti's on there with some monster tees, dude. It's like
Yeah.
try getting that thing off the ground.
Oh my gosh.
That brings me back for sure. I can almost smell the inside of that Marzocchi.
Yeah, right. No, but the e-bike for me is just it's more all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a father. I have a professional working wife. She's an ER doctor. I don't have a lot of time. Like my ride time in my life is getting less and less.
Right.
And the e-bike allows me to do the ride that I want to do.
Yeah. The reps that you get on it, right?
Oh my God.
And
You can go big and then you can do it again tomorrow because you don't put yourself in the hurt locker. Like I love doing epics. In North, we do it all, right?
Yeah.
Like we go do like the 6-hour epics, 8-hour epics, Chilcotin, 80K, like 50 miles, like big rides,
Right.
And
then you're, like you said, hurt locker.
and then you're in the hurt locker for 2 days. You're like, oh my God, but e-bike's like, yeah, let's do it again tomorrow.
100%.
Right.
I mean, in this day and age, it might seem a bit, what I want to say, like, when you have too much, it's like
Oh yeah, greedy.
In excess,
Greedy,
right?
a bit
Greedy.
greedy,
Gluttonous.
Excess, yeah.
excess. But look at people on their phones. They want more data. They want faster internet. It's like, why do you say that that's greedy when the rest of your life is you live, in greedy? It's kind of it's just I don't want to from my house. I know. Say you have an hour and a half to do your typical
Yep.
ride.
Yep.
I know where I can go in that hour and a half.
Yep.
Right.
I've milked it. There's no more I can do in that hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right.
Now with the e-bike in an hour and a half, it's like I can go to another mountain.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, what do I want to hit? It's just
Yeah,
like for
twice
me,
as-
it's just like
Twice as far.
twice as far. Yeah.
And it's not that we've kind of talked about this, the workout that you can get on an e-bike.
Oh, yeah. I think we debate about this all the time.
Right.
You get a nice spin. It takes mountain biking and it makes it road biking.
100. We've talked to.
Yeah.
We agree.
Because you get the glow, right? You're like
That's
you're
true.
like in your aerobic zone.
Yeah.
In Vancouver, out of the gate we climb, right?
Right.
And you're anaerobic.
Right.
You
Steering.
Actually,
That's
you
like-
actually
yeah,
don't get
steering.
fit. I mean, you get fit, you get strong when you're anaerobic, but you don't like you don't melt the butter, right?
Right.
The e-bike now, you get a spin at like you get 120, 130 heart rate rather than the 150, 160
Right.
heart rate.
Right.
100%.
Right. Yeah, and I see it on my watch.
Yeah.
like tech, you see it on your watch.
yeah.
It's just like get it there, and you can keep it there the whole
Keep it
time.
there. I think you still need to do the high,
I agree.
the
High anaerobic.
high
Yeah,
anaerobic.
yeah.
Because I got to tell you, I think I felt that loss a little bit. We just went for a couple's trip to Revelstoke, and we were all on what do you call pedal bikes, analog bikes,
Yeah.
muscle bikes.
Sure.
Whatever,
muscle
whatever
bikes?
you want to
Muscle
call it.
bikes?
Right, muscle bikes. Sorry.
So we all ride muscle bikes, and when you do hit the hill, and you're expecting a little bit of like boost, and there's none there. You're like, oh my
Yeah.
God! I think you do lose a bit of the power.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's some also mental toughness.
It's a mental for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I come to the conclusion that you're so used to things going by like this that when they go by like this, you're like, fuck, why am I going so slow? The trees
sure.
like that, you're like, and you want to go harder, but that's just the pace of a muscle bike.
Yeah, for
Whereas
sure.
you're used to things going by like this, like, yeah. Like,
yeah. And enjoying the uphills,
Mm-hmm.
like it's
Setting up turns on the
setting up
climbs.
terms on the
well,
climbs.
so I have guys, I hang out with like ex-Olympians, fast guys, Keith Stark. Like I'm a free rider, but I love pedaling, right? Like
Yeah.
I grew up riding cross
Yeah.
country.
You're a real bike rider.
I'm a bike rider. I'm a mountain biker.
I mean, every BMXer can pedal, and I know you have that background. And
Exactly. I don't mind grinding, but I'm not. It's funny. I have this debate all the time with my XC guys, like Andreas Hesser, one of my good friends.
Right.
We always have like cross country. He's like, you should road bike more. You'd be in better shape. I'm like, I don't want to be in better shape. It's like when I mountain bike ride, I get in better shape. It's like I default to shape.
Right.
It's like I'm never gonna like go on a trainer and like
Right.
go on a trainer.
Right,
Like,
right,
like, trains. Like no, I ride mountain bike. I get fitter.
Right. The gaining cardio fitness on a mountain bike isn't the end of mountain
No,
biking.
that's not my goal. My goal for mountain biking is to get to the top and go down. I don't, I don't want to be fitter. I want to be fit enough to get to the top and
Right,
then go
exactly.
down.
your kids ride?
They do, yeah. I got a 13-year-old, my boy Elliot, and a 10-year-old girl.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That
and they're
makes me
getting into it.
happy,
I
man.
mean, the 10-year-old girl's like, she's got a mountain bike is hard.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
These heavy bikes, like yeah. But my boy's he's getting into it. He's no Jackson Goldstone, but he's good. He enjoys it. We go Whistler Bike Park and I like to I like to go technical. Like I love cross country tech
Yeah.
because we grew up
Right.
on the shore riding that. That's what we ride is like tech cross country, right?
Right.
Right.
And I take them to do tech cross country because you can always default to downhill. Downhill is easy. You can always go get a bike park pass and go
Right.
downhilling. But you make them love the tech cross country, you know? And it's so enjoyable, like tech climbs, sessioning climbs.
Yeah.
And a point I want to make about the e-bike is that people think that the e-bike actually makes your ride easier. They're like,
Yeah, I know.
it makes my ride easier. It's like, no, come with us. Because you know what we're doing now is that we're sessioning trails
That you can.
that we could never do on our muscle bike.
Yeah.
I explain it like this: is like, you know, say this is your ride network, it turns upside down on an e-bike. You're like, oh, I never thought about going up that road or up that trail.
Up that.
You know,
Right.
For
so
sure.
we're on the limits. Like we don't want a bike to make our riding easier.
Right.
Like we're still fucking pushing it. You know, like I
Right.
want to make it harder.
Trails that you only rode down on your tech cross country now become an
Well,
uphill.
now we're secretly doing
Tech-
that at night with lights, and we're fucking climbing up and we're going, oh my god, like dude, I dabbed twice on that climb. You know what I mean? Like, and we're starting to crash just as gnarly, but backwards now. Like, like
Full committed. Up
yeah, whoa.
this- whoa, yeah, exactly.
That's
the
another
crash
thing
of
I'd
this
like to
chair.
see come back is people talking about how many dabs they had on their ride. We don't hear that
oh, we do
anymore
all the
either.
time.
That used to be a big topic of conversation around here. I don't hear it.
Well,
like I
we
used to.
session, right? Because I ride with a bunch of Twitchers that are like, oh, we're all trying to outdo each other in the climb.
Right.
Twitchers.
You gotta come up, man, and ride. And
Can't wait. I love it up there.
We do these Wednesday night. We call them the power hours. In Canada, you remember Much Music? I mean, you guys had MTV, right?
Right.
The Canadian version of MTV was Much Music.
Oh,
Much music. Right.
And we had this thing called the Power Hour. Power Hour, Much Music. You know, it was like hard
Right.
rock, heavy
Yeah,
rock,
yeah.
you know? And so we call it the Power Hour and a half, you know? And
Nice.
we have the old Much Music logo.
Nice.
You're like, Power Hour. So we do it every Wednesday night. We go for a Power Hour and a half. Mandatory beers in the pack because you got if you're riding an e-bike, you got to carry a beer. That's
Right.
that's just a rule. And we go tech is like we blow people up.
it's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So like e-bikes actually made it harder. It's not like it's getting easier. It's
Yeah.
actually hard.
Gave you access to new difficulties.
Yes.
And then
It makes me laugh when
So-
people are like, "Oh, they're for pussies." It's like, no, like, you do not even. You have no idea how hard e-bikes are.
Right.
And then if you don't make it, you got to push them up. So imagine pushing a 50-pound
55.
bike.
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
55 pounds. Right. Yeah.
that's true.
Good shit. Good
Yeah.
good talk. Good talk.
yeah.
And so we've been through the Rocky days and the free ride days, and what have you been up to now?
Well, I'm sales repping. You know, I'm loving it. Visiting, you know, shops like you guys and selling good product. And we started a company, Keith and I.
Nice.
Yeah. My partner there with Switchback Sports, who kind of reps Rocky, Raceface, Fox, Marzocchi, Easton. We do ride concept shoes, and we're old buddies from North Van.
Right.
Let's say I started repping like 5 years ago. You know, I'm like part-time rep, part-time rider. And Keith and I, you know, we're visiting shops and we're like, we need to come up with our own product. Like, you know, like what's our legacy? You know, like what are we
Right.
gonna do? You know, where's the real money?
Right.
And we're like, I don't know, let's create something. Let's create a brand. Okay, what are we gonna make? And we're kind of like, this is like years before Godfather's Garage came off the ground. We're like, had a couple ideas like, what do you want to do? We can do components because we sell Raceface, good components. Okay. And it's like, how about fenders? Like, why do we use Mudhugger fenders? Like, why don't we have a BC fender? Yeah, good idea, fenders. And then we kind of flushed that idea out. And we're like, yeah, but you only sell fenders in wet places. It's like, you know, like there's a lot of dry places in the world. You know, you're not going to be rich making fenders.
The business plan.
Business plan, right? Yeah,
right,
okay. And then we're like, consumable items, and we're like, we're mountain bikers. Like, what about the lube? Think about bike lube. You know, like use it every day.
Right.
And there's not a lot of bike lube out there with a good story. You know what I mean? Like, take any brand of bike lube right now. I mean, you know, there's a few out there, but you know, there's no Canadian made
Right.
bike lube.
Right.
You know, companies like Muck-Off come from the UK, and you know they're huge. And we're like, you know what? Maybe we got some space. You know, we'll start. Maybe lube's a good place to start. So
Right.
we started doing some research. You know, this is like 2 years before the start of the company. We started looking like vetting some suppliers, like bulk oil suppliers, and working with some formulas and doing some research. You know. And we started thinking, it's like, you know what, like, yeah, like WD-40s, like what's WD-40s? What my grandpa used, you know, it's like, you know, Finish Line, Maxima, they all come from Moto. You're like, I think we got something here. We could do a mountain bike based story, a lube, start with lube.
Mountain
Yeah.
bike origin story.
Yeah. So, we only know mountain bike. We grew
Right.
up riding mountain bike,
Right.
and I'm an old mechanic, and, you use the old staples, and then we started like, okay, let's flush this out. Let's, start to check the boxes. Like, we kind of, this day and age, you want to be like sustainably sourced, non-toxic, non-corrosive,
Right.
like,
Is
okay.
anyone else doing that?
I don't think so.
Not
no.
much. I don't. I'm looking at our lube on our shelf, and I don't think any of the lube on the shelf could say that.
Well, you look at where the world's going now, and all like sustainability. Like,
Right.
we had to be there. If we thought about this. Like, okay, Wade Simmons starting a company. What are the potential stories going to be when we go talk to Pink Bike or Vital? You know what I mean? Because they're gonna put us over the burner. Like, yeah, what Wade Simmons making lube now? Like, why is this good?
Right.
We're gonna burn you.
Right.
So we had to make sure that our shit was tight and good, and we developed it for 2 years. We worked on like formulations and different viscosities and weights, and we sent our lab, like our supplier has a lab, and they said, hey, this is kind of where we need to be. All the competitors
Benchmarked yourself against some
benchmark.
other
We're like,
ones.
can you make this? And they're like, oh yeah, it's bike lube. It's not like you're not drilling to the center of the earth or going to the moon or anything. It's like,
Right.
they're like, yeah, we can do this. Like we could be where you need to be competitive, and that's where we are. So, we had an initial offering of 3 lubes, a wet, a dry, and an e-bike lube.
Right.
Because everyone's e-biking now, so you need e-bike lube. And then we had a grease too, because we want to be, you want to have a full offering there. And then we just launched a bike wash.
Is the grease also not petroleum based?
The grease is lithium. It's
Okay.
lithium based. It's kind of this, kind of a lithium complex.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of a common grease,
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, we did some testing. Like, we have a couple of good bike shops in Vancouver. Lynn Valley Bikes is kind of a good buddy of mine. Started, one of the core shops, right?
Wow. So we're talking about the grease, and then we're talking about
Yeah. So the grease, it's a lithium based, red color, 1.5 weight. It's kind of your typical.
you can put it on bearings.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah,
put it on
that's
some
it.
metal that you want to coat and not have C's or something. Bottom bracket threads.
So where were you? Where'd you find your manufacturer?
Well, we basically opened a phone book and looked at like oil suppliers.
Right.
Well, we kind of, it's not as simple as that.
Right, yeah.
We vetted a bunch of people, lots of emails, kind of saying, we're small time, right? A couple of guys,
Right.
mountain bikers that say,
Right.
hey, we had a bit of a cover letter, like, hey, this is our idea, this is where we want to be, this is how we want to scale up. Like, is this something you want to be interested in? People would reply back like, yeah, not enough money or this or that. And,
Right.
And then we had this company in Ontario kind of contact us, and
Oh.
the guys, like you want younger dudes, you know what I mean? Like maybe mountain bikers that kind of
Right.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
recognize my name, like, oh yeah, I know you, like I'm a mountain biker kind of thing.
Right.
So
Perfect.
yeah, it's perfect, man. Pieces have been falling into place. It's so nice. Like we're working only with people that are kind of like, that have our backs. Like it's not.
Right.
We're not, this is a legacy for me. This isn't like a early start. I'm going to cash out. Like, this is my name's on this, and I want to make good stuff.
Right.
Like that's what I tell like all the companies. It's like when we do something, we do it well.
Right.
We're only going to do it well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like your thoughts on legacy. Right. What's going to be your legacy besides the Pro Riders?
Well, that's why we did 1% for the planet. I know for sure that we're only the only company doing like contributing 1% of profit to the
Right.
planet. As I say, it's like sustainably sourced, kind of base oils and yeah. I mean, you got to be there, right?
Yeah,
long
for
term,
sure.
because the hard questions. I always thought about it like this: that I'd be interrogated by guys like you, like why is Wade Simmons lube? Why is Godfather Garage so good? It's like, well, I'll tell you why it's good, because we're hardcore mountain makers. We ride a heck of a lot, and this is what we use.
Yeah, you tested it. You like it.
We
It
test
works.
it. We like it. Yeah.
That's cool.
And we have we ride year round on the shore, as you guys do, right? But it's
Right.
like we can
Means a
ride
different thing up there.
24/7, 365.
Right. It's
And it's wet, like like probably more than 70% of the time.
Right.
Mud and grit, grime. Like we go through a lot of drivetrains and
right.
seems like drivetrains are getting better. Like, you don't change front chain rings as much as you used to, hey?
True.
Right.
No? It's
Not
kinda
having release points for shifting is a big deal.
weird. Exactly. Yeah. And narrow wide stuff like that.
And some of the
Yeah,
new
that-
chains wear really well too.
They do. Yeah. I'm like, I get a lot of. We talked about bikes. How many bikes do I have? It's like, I've never replaced a drivetrain on a bike. I
Right.
change chains a lot.
Right.
Right, about every 3 months or so, I'll throw a chain on. But like, I get a bike, and it's like I remember the last time I changed the cassette.
Right. Right.
You have enough bikes to spread it around.
Actually, I do. I spread my usage around.
Yeah. That's cool. So the dry lube is probably more for our conditions, dusty and dry. I imagine.
Yeah. So basically, you can imagine the e-bikes being the heaviest. The reason being is riding e-bikes, they torque. They're torquing all the time. And what I found was, even not with our brand, but like I go for an hour ride, my chain will have that that kind of high pitched
Right.
metal
Yeah. Metal on metal.
sound.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Right.
It's like
Right.
1 hour I'd be gone through loop. Oof.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of have a lube that would it would stand. It could be. You could apply it once and you get a ride out of it. If
Right.
not, if not 2 rides. I'll put this in the notes too. Cold notes. Pat Cox, who works for Rocky, he's our demo driver, and on our first prototype, like formulations, he tested it for a year for us.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
so it was tested on the Rocky demo fleet,
Oh.
all like last couple of years.
That's a super legit test. Yeah.
So he's like, he gives us feedback, and he's like looping chains and sending bikes out all the time. He's like, dude, this stuff is like other brands. You'd have to reapply all the time. He gets one application in the morning, and it's good for the whole demo.
Oh, that's great.
So diving into lubes, the pros and cons of lubes is like, I don't need my drive. Some people claim it's like, oh, you use it and it gets cleaner. It's like, I don't want cleaner. Like, think about your teeth. Do they fucking get cleaner when you eat food? No, you go.
Right.
There's dentists for a reason. It's because when
Right.
you use your teeth, they get dirty, right? It's
Right.
like lube. If it's doing its job, it's going to attract stuff. That's just the way it is. Think about any application in the world that things are moving and there's friction and it's
Yeah.
like cars. What happens is when you have an oil leak on your car
Right.
down the side? It's like covered in dust.
Yeah.
You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah.
That's why you need to change your oil.
You need to change your oil. We talked about bar chain oil on a chainsaw.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is like the gooeyest ever.
Yeah,
Not to
yeah.
say that we're pro gooey,
Right.
but at some point, if you go through some water and you go through some dust or sand, it's going to attract it, right? Like,
Not having dirt stick to it is maybe not the ultimate thing with lube.
well,
Maybe
yeah.
lubricating
At
is.
some point, you're going to have to clean your jockey wheels. That's
Yeah.
and I do it probably. I have. My son rides, my wife rides. I clean a lot of jockey wheels. It's just
Right.
that's just part of the maintenance of a bike. You can't have. It's like flossing your teeth every night. It's like
Yeah.
that's what you do.
And it seems like the way that you're positioning, that you're approaching this, also sets you up for maybe changes in regulations into the future. Like if making sure that bike parks and what have you are sustainable and the likes.
Well, that's going to be. I mean, with the increase in popularity with bike parks and,
Right.
and the amount of users out there, you got to think like I always think, where do the car tires go? You wear car tires out on your car. It's like, where's all that rubber go? It's like it's not
Right.
on the road. It's gone somewhere.
Right.
Chain lube, it's got to go somewhere.
Right.
It washes off and creaks. Like people talk about like they're testing for COVID in water. Because
right.
they can,
Yeah.
they,
And
because
sewage and what have you. Yeah,
sewage and
totally.
stuff like that. It's like
Yeah.
you can think about how the effects of chain lube, the downstream effects.
Yeah.
So, it's never a bad idea to be sustainably sourced, non-toxic.
Not toxic. That's huge.
I mean, I don't say you can drink the stuff or put it on your tacos, but
Right.
But it's not
it
going to
actually
ruin.
tastes pretty good.
It's not going to ruin the trout stream downstream from the bike park.
Yeah.
I love the name. I love the graphics and everything too.
Well, we again, when like someone like myself comes out with a brand, you want to make sure you're on point, right? And we played around a lot with the name and the graphics. We want something cool. Our bottles are quite like handsome, and we want the dark, the green, loam.
Right.
That's kind of like the green is
got
kind of
it,
like
yeah.
forest based.
Yep.
We want to be like, like black metal, wood, old, like good garage. When you think of a good garage, like an old garage, like you like worn wood.
Right.
You want patina on the bench, the stainless steel.
Yeah,
right,
That's
yeah.
kind of that's our aim. We want a nice display. You're like, oh, that looks pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does look good. I like the aluminum bottle.
That was, when we came out with the bike wash, we kind of ho-hummed with the plastic bottle. The world is anti-plastic for a good reason.
Right.
Recyclable, and we're like, what about aluminum? So we kind of sourced that out, and the pricing, like, of course, are a little more expensive, but we're like, yeah, I mean, it's durable, reusing. It's like, it's gonna look good in time. You're gonna dent that
Right.
thing up and scratch it up. It's think about how many old tools that you use at your dad's and stuff. It's pretty
yeah.
awesome.
Those are the best
Like,
memories.
like that old oil can.
Yeah,
right.
That's where we want to live. The Godfathers. Like we want to be around for a long time.
Classic.
We're not into it just to make some money. We're into it to enhance mountain bikers' lives.
Right.
That's what we're doing. And then the funny thing about the name is that Keith, my partner, his wife Sarah, we're at their house, we're brainstorming ideas. We're like, yeah, Godfather, you know one as the Godfather, Godfather products, Simmons, it's like, she's like, how about Godfather's Garage? And we're like, that's got a good ring to it, like.
It does.
And then I'm a mechanic, right? Like I used to, funny story, as a kid, like early 20s, I worked on the assembly line at Rocky building wheels.
Oh, nice.
I build really nice wheels. I can do anything. I got out of it when suspension got a bit more tech.
Right.
Yep.
You get old. I'm 50 now.
Yep.
I relinquish power. I'm like, you know what? I don't have any time to work.
It's
on
funny.
it.
I'm in a very similar place.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
like-
build wheels, but I don't love
No.
rebuilding the latest suspension.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm really good at like straightening derailleur hangers on the trail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I have a knack for bending a rotor really good.
Yeah.
Even on my motos, they're like, how'd you get that thing so straight? I'm like, I don't know, but look at that thing. It's like straighter than it started. I like that.
That's good.
So basically, I love being a mechanic. So when we came up with the name, the Garage,
Yeah.
you can kind of think like, what lives in a garage? It's like, that's kind of
Yeah.
where we're headed. Right, like so. We're not going to be a lube company. I mean,
Right.
we're going to start with lube. That's the foot in the door.
That's just the first thing.
But like we want to. We came out with the bike wash this year.
Right.
I would say maybe a SKU a year. Kind of thing. Like slow trickle. Like we're into this for the long haul. Like I'm as I say, I'm 50 now, and I want to be 65 and
Keep on with this.
just keeping the Godfathers going.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
Stoked.
It's fun. You know what? It's fun. I love it. Right.
Yeah.
And bringing all your friends together, and like and being, it's made in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a passion. It's great.
Yeah, and I'm 52 and years into my career as well, and I get to work on some new stuff at in my job, and I'm like, man, in the Alaskan twilight of my career, it's awesome to be implementing new things, and
Yeah.
it keeps the job fresh and what have you. So I can appreciate what you're doing here. Is
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, keep it fresh, like you said.
right,
Yeah,
right.
It's like doing Sudoku, but I'm making lube.
Awesome.
dating ourselves. Right.
People don't do Sudoku anymore.
But it is.
maybe
It's
they do, yeah.
challenge-
What's it called?
Wordle.
Wordle.
The new Sudoku. Yeah.
I got a funny story about Wordle if you want to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we got a place in Whistler, a family place,
Yeah.
And my wife's sister, like we're up there one Christmas, like or a couple years ago, and she's like, "You guys do Wordle?" And I'm like, "What's Wordle?" And she's like, "Oh, you don't know what Wordle is?" I'm like, "No." She's like, and then so. I'm kind of like, Wordle. It's like, she's like, I bet you can do it better than you. So it was a challenge, right? So,
All right.
so I got into Wordle, and then I only do it with when she's around. So whenever
Yeah.
every
gosh.
Christmas or whatever that we're doing a family vacation, that's like the Wordle. We're like Wordle for like 4 days, and then it's like no more Wordle.
Do you start ramping up in the days before so that you can break the
No. I mean, it's not too hard.
Yeah.
But there was a couple tough ones. The last one, it was like, what was the word? We even think it was a word. We're like, come on.
Right.
Yep. That game has definitely spawned some controversies.
Yeah, but it's I like this. We've had some fun with it, right? Like wash it, send it. Like we're all free riders sending it, right? So we had some
Yeah.
fun with the words. I don't know if you ever read the back. Not many people do, but it's we got some humor stuff in here, send it, wash it again and again.
right.
And then, on the wet there, it says, let it rain.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let it rain. I can't read this anymore because my eyes are gone, but,
But it's steeped in mountain bike culture and lore and tradition and The Godfather. And how'd you get the name The Godfather?
Well, you know what's funny about that? Brett Tippie, he kind of coins himself the Godfather too.
Okay.
And he hates the fact that I'm actually like universally known as the Godfather. He's like, I'm the Godfather. I'm like, you're a Godfather too, but I'm the Godfather. He's like, no, I'm the Godfather. Like, and he actually calls himself the Godfather at certain times. Like, I think he did another podcast. He's like, the Godfather free ride, Brett Tippie. I'm like, even my buddies were like, what's Tippie doing calling himself the Godfather? You're the Godfather.
So good.
But the reason I got called the Godfather, I think Derek Westerland, who is he's the owner of New World Disorder. He started the New World Disorder movies. I'm pretty good at a lot of different mountain bike disciplines. I raced dual slalom. I did trials. I raced downhill, cross country,
BMX. I mean, obviously.
BMX. Yeah, and BMX skills, of course, as we know, apply so good to mountain biking, right?
Right.
And when I moved to Kamloops, if I have one skill to say, like I'm not a style guy. I hate tricks. I used to say tricks for kids. And that's why I got out of free ride is when the tricks came in, because I can't do tricks, right? I remember when Bear Claw did the 360 on the road gap at Crankworks. I've was standing there with Richie and we're out. It's like, we knew we were out, right? I'm never going there, because I've done 360s in my life, but it's just like, for me, I'm not pushed by tricks. I'm pushed by lines. I call it the line disease. I have a line disease. I look at shit. I'm like, I think I can gap to there. I know, it's kind of like Terry Hawkinson or something like that. I mean, he did tricks too, but it's like I'm good at picking lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you could see that in movies too, because I've done a lot of shit that people have never done, and all my New World Disorder segments and stuff they're still they're legendary. Like I'm the Godfather because I did things that people are like, holy fuck, like he did it kind of thing, like they would build it and then I would come in and do it, right?
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that kind of the pick the lines thing, because I think that some riders do have that obsession with where's the lines, what line am I not seeing, and envisioning things that haven't been done before, and it's not everyone does, but it's cool.
I think
cool.
It's a talent.
Yeah.
Some guys are trick oriented, and I see, I do love tricks, and they're so rad, but I see it as a pissing match. It's like,
right.
I did a backflip. Oh, I'm going to do a double backflip. I'm doing a double backflip bar spin. It's like, it never ends.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like that's what tricks is. Yeah. The jump, and they're maxing out tricks,
And it's a little bit more about the athleticism than the creativity too, and the imagination.
Where I like thinking like, whoa, can that be ridden? It's kind of like a big fan of mine was Ruben Alcantara, because he looked at things differently. Like, he'd like air upstairs onto a wall ride and do things backwards, You're like that guy, like, like that. I like shit when you look at stuff and it's like, wow, that, can that be done? That's kind of, that's the world I live in.
And that's how you guys invented free riding, is by seeing something that no one saw before.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool.
You go and do it and everyone's like, oh crap, he just did that.
Well, Dylan Stark, who just he just handed the Merino, at Riverside.
Yeah, the road gap.
The Merino road gap,
Yeah.
Dude, awesome. I love seeing that, right? But that took other people have hit that jump, but I did it first on a mountain bike. It's kind of,
right.
I mean, that's, there's always the pioneers, what I mean?
Right.
And it takes the vision.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like the scene in The Godfather. Michael walks into the little Italian restaurant, into the bathroom, walks out, and boom, boom, takes down the two guys. You're like, oh my gosh, he just did that.
Yeah.
Watching you on the lines, it's like,
maybe,
it's like, oh my gosh, he just did that.
And he probably didn't even think about doing that. He just did it,
Right.
Yeah, that's what we did. We kind of, I've done a lot of gnarly stuff that's like, some of my gnarly stuff, I've been trying to dig it out. I want to do a Wade Simmons best of sometime down the line, I talked to Derek Preston about this.
Yeah.
Like, I've done some stuff. I remember in Copper Canyon down in Mexico, there was this train bridge over the canyon. No, I mean a car bridge, but it was one of those like iron, one of the supports that go up. And I rode it.
Oh,
it
like
was
the trestles.
The trestle,
Oh,
yeah.
my
And it was
gosh.
like, what are they, like a foot and a half wide?
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm like, I think I could ride off that and drop off. And I'm like, now I think about it, I'm like, what was I doing? Like Danny McCaskill shit, right? Like, you know, like when he's on like the dam wall and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
You're like, one slip and you're dead. And it's like, we were doing that on these shitty bikes
Yeah, that's so awesome.
in Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico. So awesome.
Oh gosh.
I think that might be a good place to leave it, and we can maybe have you back sometime.
Yeah, thanks guys. It's been a blast. I mean, we could talk all night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super appreciative and
Yeah.
glad you could be here. Thank you.
I'd love to do another one if you ever invite me down.
Of course.
100%. Maybe
that'd be great.
next time we'll get to go ride with Richie and the guys.
I heard you want to bring your moto up to Squamish to go
Oh,
for a dirt bike ride.
I do.
That'd be great. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Wade.
Thanks to all the listeners and Jake and Auk and all the stakeholders and riders around the path. And let's all remember to love the bike we ride.